I guess, yes. Please let me know if you can see the third presentation, if it shows fine. I think that Kevin, okay, Kevin has
Yes,
noted,
we
so
can
yeah,
see everything. No
it does show
problem.
fine. Perfect. So good morning, everyone. Again, happy to see you even online. Today we are going to discuss about the third virtual LTT, and its topic is about environmental education and creating a lesson plan using ancient Greek drama, which I have to admit was it was quite a demanding topic, and you will see why in a while during the presentation. So first of all, I have included an example of an ancient drama to see how it could probably be used in environmental education, to prompt, to urge students and make them aware of our environmental condition and issues, of course. However, first, I would like you to allow me to begin with an introduction, let's say, regarding the environmental conservation in classical Greece, and we have to say that the natural environment and its conservation in classical Greece, we're talking about the 5th to 4th centuries before Christ, has been a considerably debated issue, because there are two different opinions, let's say, regarding this issue. Some scholars argue that classical Greece was a land of noble forests and crystal fountains that was destroyed by human activities, while others denounce this very pessimistic view by claiming that humans had a positive impact on the Mediterranean landscape. So, okay, there was some noise, some background noise. So after reviewing the most relevant literature, it came out that both abiotic conditions and biotic resources were not much different from the present ones. Now, regarding agriculture and livestock in ancient Greece, agriculture was based on cultivation of small fields, and it also involved multiple crop rotation, while production mainly aimed at self-sufficiency and not to yield maximization. As a result, we have sustainable use of arable lands. Now, regarding livestock and livestock husbandry, this involves small flocks associated with arable agriculture mainly, which indicates just a very limited impact on the environment. So there were some kind of destructions, of course, in the environment, like wildfires, and they were present, but not that devastating. And on the contrary, forests were largely overexploited, and they were mostly used for firewood rather than timber, while hunting was intensive, although practiced for social reasons and not for economic reasons in most cases. Now, if we take into consideration these practices, we can be led to the conclusion that people didn't really destroy their environment in the classical period, but they chose to rather, let's say, transform it to meet their specific needs. they were not as conservation-minded as we are today, but they seem to have known the strengths and weaknesses of their environment. So this is why creating this presentation was quite challenging, because we had to find examples that can be related to environmental education in the ancient Greek theater, but people were not that concerned about environmental problems because they were not that evident back then at that era. So how can we use and why should we use drama in our environmental education, in environmental education classes? So first of all, it engages and excites students about the environment, something which is quite a challenge, especially today. And students, lots of students, not all of them, but at least many of them, are not that interested in environmental education in contemporary society, unfortunately. And specific case studies have provided both quantitative and qualitative evidence for drama-based activities, leading to an improvement in knowledge about the environment and understanding about the consequences of one's actions. So in observing and participating in these specific case studies, we reflect that drama can be seen as a means of synthesizing and presenting scientific knowledge in ways that are both creative and multi-layered at the same time, and which can be thought to be more exciting for the students. So as a result, this helps maintain their attention, and at the same time, it helps us facilitate their engagement in our classes. Now, what about the teachers' views and their attitudes regarding the environmental classes combined with drama details, let's say? So some other studies and the results have shown that when environmental education is based on drama activities, it can have a significant impact on students. And teachers believe that it can increase resourcefulness, and at the same time, it can improve a number of factors like understanding, the student's empathy, and willingness to participate in social actions. Drama-based classes for the environment can make them take more initiatives and be more responsible and committed, as well as sensitive. Now, regarding younger students, they can be greatly benefited by such a practice because they find the whole procedure more exciting. Of course, they think that this is not a traditional class. This is not part of the traditional curriculum, and they definitely need something more spectacular and eventful to create some lasting and memorable impressions. Now, what about the impact of these classes and this specific approach on our students' environmental awareness? So first of all, it makes it easier for them to acquire some basic theory about the ecosystem, and also it provides them with new experiences in order to build new knowledge and discover new things, even by themselves sometimes. So scientific terms become more comprehensible. And of course, it also raises our students' interest in both participation and action in relation to the environment. So it is not only that they will probably be asked to perform a theatrical play for the parts of our classes, but they will also be, let's say, exposed to some further knowledge. So we also have several surveys that have indicated a clear difference in the level of understanding and level of knowledge between the students who used drama-based activities and role plays to those who didn't. And in fact, the former category, the former group, was even more interested to keep up the research by themselves. So, what about the environmental elements in Greek ancient theater? So, most of you will know that the performance spaces of the 5th century Athenian drama were in many respects radically different from anything we may encounter in the modern era. So theaters were not so much buildings, but they were landscape architecture and structures. So they were embedded in the natural landscape, and they offered their audiences a panoramic view of the surrounding environment. So in fact, the theater itself, the structure, the theatrical structure itself, was part of the surrounding environment. So this environment, in many cases, has profoundly informed the play's imagery, dramaturgy, and even some theoretical reflections. And in many of the ancient Greek plays, the imagery of natural spaces, just like mountainscapes, this could be the sea, or even agricultural fields, which evoked what would have lain immediately in view of the audience, can be seen as central to many plays' reflection on both the natural and the divine order. However, in some other plays, there is an intense focus on the beaten surface of the orchestra as evocative of the earth and its generative and sometimes even deadly powers. In other words, the orchestra, by their songs or their movement in some cases, could summon the earth to take control of the situation and probably, let's say, give a solution for an action which was thought inappropriate or whatever. So, regarding some further environmental elements in Greek ancient theater, we have many plays that integrate the presence and movement of the sun, or even the wind and other elements of the sky. We have many plays that include the trees and vegetation, or even rocks and hillsides that are found in the surroundings of the theater. And they also used to exploit the contrast between light, shade, and darkness generated during performance time in a very symbolic way. However, the fact that we have just presented may refer to the way that ancient Greeks took advantage of the environment and the surroundings of the Greek theater. However, now we are moving on to the environmental conservation in Greek ancient theater. And as previously stated, people at that period might not have been conservation minded, but they seem to have known the strengths and weaknesses of their environment. They were not that, let's say, uh, interested to include, um, let's say, some information or some facts related to environmental destruction. Probably there was not such uh, such a thing back then. So the necessity for environmental conservation was not evident in the ancient Greeks civilization, and um, the environmental elements could play an important role in the development of the story, but they were not used specifically to teach uh, respect towards the environment, but this happened only in some cases. One of them, um, one of which we will analyze in a few minutes. So, despite despite that, um, some theatrical shows, some theatrical plays, uh, still made clear that nature and natural elements had to be respected in order to avoid punishment at the end of the day. So how could disrespect towards natural elements be punished? Let's see an example of nature's role in Greek theater. And specifically, this example can be found in the ancient Greek tragedy, The Persians, by Aeschylus. And it refers to the exhibition of King Xerxes against the Greeks. This was back in 480 before Christ. And the Persians were defeated at the Battle of Salamis by the outnumbered Greek army. So the story is about Xerxes' mother, Atusa, who was waiting for her son's return, and she summoned the ghost of her husband Darius to ask for help and advice. So in the conversation, in the discussion between Atusa and Darius, when her husband learns of the present defeat, he first of all condemns the hybris behind his son's decision to invade Greece. And moreover, he particularly rebukes and impious Xerxes' decision to be a Brit over the Hellespont to expedite the Persian army's advance. So this decision by Xerxes was considered a hybris, and the bridge was later destroyed by a storm. So this event, along with the Persians' defeat at the end of the battle, were both attributed to Xerxes' acts. And the ancient Greeks talked about the intolerable pride of a human who could not accept his limits and cannot accept and respect the limits and let's say the limits that are set by our environment and the nature itself. So the meaning is that nature cannot be tamed, not even by King Xerxes, who was back then a very powerful king with a huge army. But when he attempted to take control of, let's say, the natural elements, nature took revenge. And in the play by Aeschylus, the Persians, the story behind the whole play is that no human being can or should try to tame nature. This work and other works as well is based on the archaic mentality of violating the natural order, which must not be disturbed by any human intervention, by no means. So the truth is that environmental education is not to be clearly found in an ancient Greek drama. However, some of its basic principles can be used towards this direction and can be included in an environmental class to make our students think about the consequences of our actions. So we can say that the ancient universal law of hybris, atis or atis in Greek, nemesis and thesis or thesis in Greek can be used for this purpose, towards this direction. Now, what are these four, let's say, words? First of all, hybris is when we behave as if trying to transcend mortal nature and become God ourselves. So if someone behaves violently or even recklessly, arrogantly, and even insultingly toward the physical rules, the laws of the state and especially the gods, in an overestimation of one's abilities and powers, then this person was considered to have committed hybris. This is, let's say, an insult, and could be described as behaving as if trying to transcend, as we've said, moral nature and become God. Such practices were thought to anger gods and nature itself. And using this form of these, let's say, four stages, we can say that the ancient Greeks believed that hybris usually caused the intervention of the gods, and especially Zeus, who was the king, who was considered to be the king of the 12 gods. And then he sent Attis to the abuser, which was, let's say, the blurring and blindness of the mind. So this, in turn, led the abuser to new offenses until he committed a very grave error, which brought about the nemesis, which was the wrath and vengeance of the gods. And afterwards, after nemesis, we have thesis, which is this person's punishment and destruction. So now approaching towards the end of our presentation, we will use the play by Aeschylus called The Persians to share some ideas on how to implement ancient Greek drama elements in an environmental class. Of course, these ideas mainly depend on the age of our students. But first of all, if we want to use this theatrical play, The Persians, I think that we should address to older students, not, for example, primary school students, because they will have, first of all, to be assigned to read the theatrical play, or we can give them specific parts. For example, the part where Darius learns about the bridge that Xerxes tried to construct in order to pass through Hellespont. Then they could be asked to focus on the impact of the natural elements and the environment in general on the development of the story, and of course the final result of the battle. So they might be asked, do you think that the results of the battle can be seen as a punishment for the arrogance that Xerxes has shown towards the environment, of course. Moreover, they can be led to comment on the perception that nature takes revenge for the disrespectful human activity towards it. And having discussed all the above, our students can be asked to come up with other human decisions against nature, which the latter seems to be punishing. So we could probably ask them to compare modern human decisions and how nature, how the environment, how our planet has reacted against these actions. And finally, students can be asked to compare the environmental conditions in the ancient era to the ones dealing with nowadays and try to attribute them to the past and modern habits respectively. This task could probably make them realize any difference in the way that we take advantage of our land, of our planet, and attribute the very severe environmental problems that we have to deal with nowadays to the way that we are using our planet and our environment. So that's all. No more than 30 minutes, I guess. I don't know if you have any questions or if you would like to ask anything further.
Hello.
Hello, Gamze.
Can you hear me? Hi, how are you?
Fine.
Actually, I don't have any questions, but it was actually interesting for me to learn about the names of the ancient universal laws names. It was interesting for me, and I see that if we do not emphasize the importance of nature in our living or teaching processes in a way, the nature in the end takes revenge in time, and so Nemesis comes in view with wrath and revenge, right? Thanks for your all efforts and for this nice slide. I would like to thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here, everyone.